Hey all, quick rundown of the events I'm talking about. Bobby Big Ballz, professional Smash Bros. Melee player, has been banned from Twitch, and by proxy, all streamed Smash events. So, what are the Big Balls banned on Twitch for? On September 4th, Bobby drank and drove on stream. Here's the clip of that.
Couldn't be me, man. Hey, you know, my car's pretty old, but I ain't got no dents in this bitch. Yeah, you know the fucking vibe.
This is the complete extent of the drinking. Bobby later explained that this was in fact the extent of it, and that it was a bottle of wine with a 12% alcohol concentration, and that he was 3 minutes out from his home. So why am I talking about this? There's already a Mutahar video about it, there's already a Critikal video about it. Well, for one thing, I've actually been following this guy for quite a while. Smash players who are actually funny are so close to extinct, but Bobby Big Ballz helped keep that boat afloat. So you might say I'm a bit partial. And for another thing, the two videos I mentioned, they're both terrible. They're both awful. And that's mainly what I wanted to talk about, is assessing this situation for what it actually is, and by responding to questionable criticisms and viewpoints that they're propagating. Mutahar and Critikal are known for being big commentary channels. They both have their own quirks and genres of content, but generally they tend to cover popular and topical internet stories. There's nothing inherently wrong with doing that. You can call it cringe, or you can call it lazy, and maybe it is, but the issue lies when all you do is morally grandstand in these videos and give the most shallow takes without even a shred of nuance where it's due. That's what both of these videos do, to a very large audience. I'll address Mutahar's video first.
Actually not suffering any legal penalties, which I think they 100% should, okay?
He spends the first couple minutes summarizing the situation. Then he makes this point.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot begin to tell you how dangerous this can be. You might be like, but Muta, it's one sip. You know, I've met dumbasses that take one hit of the old marijuana, okay, the old vape, and they don't realize 30 minutes after that the effect starts kicking in, so when they're on the road finally, on the highway, you know, the freeway, they can be fucking cruise missiles, causing somebody to lose their life. Look, at the end of the day, I don't care if a drunk driver dies.
Before I explain in depth how stupid this is, I have to spell it out and make it perfectly clear. I condemn the actions that Bobby Big Ballz took. Of course I do. It is objectively dumb, and you don't do that. Because at the end of the day, better safe than sorry, right? That being said, it is one sip. Regardless of how black and white these guys want to make it seem, it's an important detail. Some reckless actions, while still reckless, are more consequential and put people more at risk than others, and because of this, they carry different legal repercussions where necessary. So, let's do a few minutes of research to find out what results from doing what Bobby did. Firstly, recall the details. Bobby took a singular swig of 12% wine while driving to his home, which was 3 minutes out from where he was. Now, the effects of any amount of alcohol for anyone are felt in, at the very soonest, about 10 minutes. So immediately that eliminates the possibility that Bobby could have at any point been drunk driving. Full stop. But let's assume that Bobby was feeling superhuman or something. He's super pumped on estrogen recently and is clinically anorexic beneath the hoodie, allowing the alcohol to take effect on him abnormally sooner than anyone else. What would happen? On a horrible day, it will take a woman, let's say 3 drink units, to get intoxicated enough to not legally be allowed to drive in most areas. A drink unit of wine that has a 12% alcohol concentration is measured as 5 ounces of that wine. For reference, that looks like this. This is a 5-ounce bottle. Cool. Bobby had a fraction of 1 drink. He would have been, without a doubt, hardly intoxicated by the time it took effect, meaning he would have had very low BAC. In this low level of intoxication, ranging from 0.01 to 0.05, you are hardly being affected by the alcohol, if at all, but most notably, you are still within the legal limit to drive. In Texas, Bobby's region, the limit is 0.08, but again, he was certainly lower than that. Basically, all of that to say, he would not have been a drunk driver, even if what he drank somehow immediately had its effect. This isn't to say Bobby is squeaky clean. The one thing Bobby would be guilty of here is open carrying alcohol in his car, which is a Class C misdemeanor in Texas. This is the least serious type of misdemeanor, and never constitutes jail time, but rather, at most, a fine of a few $100s. Anyway, now that we understand that Bobby couldn't have been drunk driving for a few reasons, we've painted the picture for how Mutahar's comparison to a marijuana vape is especially funny. Hitting a standard marijuana vape is around 17 milligrams of the drug, which literally classifies as too strong for most people and will get even an experienced person high. So you might say a sip of 12% wine won't get you as delirious as hitting a marijuana vape. That would be true. That would be pretty true. Mutahar acknowledges very briefly in his video that Bobby, quote, may not have been committing any drunk driving, and then shifts to knocking him for just open containering. Then he shifts back to saying stuff like this.
You know what happens is people who are like, I only took one sip. You know, somebody who takes 50 little baby sips might not realize how drunk they are. I'll tell you right now, people who are drunk often underestimate how fucking wasted they actually are.
This is moronic. I don't even need to explain it. For reasons we've established, and even outside of those, this almost seems like framing something wrong on purpose. That's enough said on that.
That is just terrible, and hopefully it gets help.
Critical's video, like some of his other commentary stuff, is a slightly watered-down version of Mutahar's video that came out before his. So, responding to Mutahar is largely responding to Critikal, and that's out of the way. Unique to Critikal, though, is that the vast majority of this is just preaching that drinking and driving is a bad thing to do, and that disagreeing with that would be weird and wrong. In all fairness, he is right about that. Condoning behavior like Bobby's would be wrong, and doing that is what leads to situations where there is actually some tangible level of danger involved. That's uncontested. What I contest is saying things like this.
Like, it is sad to see that one awful decision did ruin his career, but it's one decision that I have legitimately no respect for. This isn't just like some whoops-a-daisy mistake that, you know, everybody makes. This is the most preventable accident. The easiest whoops-a-daisy to ever avoid. Just don't drink and drive. It's hard to have empathy in a situation like this when drunk drivers kill so many people every single year.
By the way that Critikal and Mutahar talk about Bobby Big Ballz, you would think Bobby actually was drunk driving, or at least was on the brink of doing so. He absolutely was not. It's terrible framing that misrepresents Bobby as a person significantly more reckless and formidable than he's actually proven to be. My purpose in making this has not been to completely exonerate Bobby, and again, to make it perfectly clear, you don't do what Bobby did, just like you don't start texting while you drive. No matter how much of either you do, both actions are negligent and do increase risk on the road. That being said, when judging someone in front of thousands, sometimes millions of people, you have an obligation to portray that person and their situation fairly. I understand that with the daily grind for pumping out content, you're not going to have the time or the patience to dive in and detail a bunch of intricacies. Being honest and upfront about that had ought to be the standard, not brazenly and repeatedly painting someone as someone they're provably not. Pretending people and their situations are that unambiguous is childish, and in some cases defamatory. And it's mostly Critikal, but it's ironic to me that these guys pretend to be familiar with this mass community and to even care about it. And Bobby Big Ballz is the guy they decide to make a video condemning. That is your smash figurehead that you need to spend 8 minutes announcing as an unrespectable, irredeemable human being who deserves to go to jail. That's pathetic.